All right, my friends. For those of you who were in the class this morning, we got up to here this morning. But if you decided that you want to look, what's this, at the YouTube, I already put it up on YouTube, right? So you'll see there's something different. Why? Because I forgot that was last year's class. Last year's class was in the same thing, same topic. There we go. Right. Last year's class was in the same topic as this, and this year, just a few hours ago, we recorded this class. We learned this, but I forgot to record it. I forgot to push that little button that says record. I don't know how I did it. I recorded everything before that and everything after that. But anyway, but it is up. The paragraph chet, paragraph 8 is up, and that's what we learned this morning is up, but it's last year's version. My explanations of last year, not this year. Basically the same thing. Okay. And so what do we get up to? We got up to that the most important thing in Judaism is to bring Moshiach, and it's up to us. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, he replaced Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. There's a whole story, which we're going to go into now. And he replaced him. The first day that he was the leader of the Jewish people, the Nasi, the head of the Sanhedrin, as he learned, he passed a law. And the law is that you should say Shema Yisrael, you should say 3 paragraphs, even in the nighttime. There are 3 paragraphs. Now that's what we do. The 3rd paragraph of Kriya Shema was the seat of an argument, was the cause of an argument. And the argument was if you should say it in the nighttime or not. The 3rd paragraph of Shema Yisrael talks about going out of Egypt, which is a good reason to mention it in the nighttime. But the main topic of that 3rd paragraph is the commandment of tzitzit, a talit and tzitzit of the strands, which is only a commandment in the daytime, not in the nighttime. So sure you say it, and according to some people, it doesn't depend on the day or the night. It depends on the garments, but the daytime garment or night. But in the end, that's what it is. So the commandment is only for the daytime. So therefore, it's only a commandment for the daytime. Maybe you should only say this paragraph in the daytime and not in the nighttime. In the nighttime, you'll say just 2 paragraphs of Shema instead of 3. And he passed the law. You say it in the nighttime as well. And the Chachamim, the great rabbis, they say you should also say it in the days of the Moshiach. So that's what the Rebbe here is centering on. What exactly does it mean you should say going out of Egypt in the days of the Moshiach? So what he wants to point out is that the whole purpose of the Jewish people is the days of the Moshiach. Going out of Egypt was just leading up to, and it includes in it the bringing of Moshiach. Because Moshiach is going to take all of the Jews out of their own personal Egypts. The word Egypt means limitations. All their personal limitations, which prevent them from revealing their true Jewish or godly identity. Namely, to make this world a feature of the Creator. You'll see in the whole world, you just see the Creator and the miraculousness and the balance and the beauty and the power of the Creator and everything in the world. Okay. So we have to do everything we can to bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe stressed that that's the whole idea, that when he was chosen to be the leader, he was really only 18 years old, but a miracle occurred because he looked too young. And that was sort of a drawback. So a miracle occurred, and he grew, what is it, the straight lines of white beard. And that made him look older and respectable. And they realized this was a sign from heaven that in addition to all the good qualities that he had that also. I mean, they would have chosen him to be the leader anyway, probably. And that was not a deciding factor. But still, it was a detracting factor. It was a detraction for that. So that miracle happened. So he looked like he was 70. So where he says, why 70? So the Rebbe explained the number 70 is signifying a person that has completed his refining his emotions, the 7 emotions, and he explained it according to Kabbalah, etc. Okay, so you look, if you want to look at the YouTube, and you'll see what it is. Okay, but Lohosif, let's add on. Let's add on something more. Now, again, I just want to just reiterate, to repeat this again. Why is the Rebbe doing all this? What is he talking about all this stuff for? It's just an interesting subject or what? No, it is an interesting subject, or it should be. But the point is, the Rebbe wants to put it into our minds and into our hearts the tremendous, immeasurable importance, vital importance of doing everything we can to bring Mashiach, thinking about Mashiach, missing Mashiach, realizing that it's up to us to bring Mashiach, not to give up, not to lose enthusiasm, not to lose enthusiasm, not to lose the goal, to keep the goal in mind, and to realize that not only should we have that goal, but we have the power and the obligation to actually make it happen, to change the world totally, a totally different, beautiful, meaningful world. Every moment will be meaningful. Every moment an opportunity. Okay. So that's why the Rebbe is talking about this, so that we should change our paradigms, call it, what is our outlook in life. And also to empower us, to, how do you say, excite us, so that life isn't boring or meaningless, empty. Well, Hosif, to add on, now, this whole idea of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he became the leader of the Jewish people, the Nasi. This is also in the story in the Talmud. What is the story in the Talmud? We talked about this before. What's the story? That on that day, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah became the leader. What happened is Salku l'shomer, they removed the guard on the door, but Natnu lehem reshut, and gave permission to anyone who wanted to come and learn to learn. Okay, so this was a little bit more than the Sanhedrin. This is not exactly the Sanhedrin, but this was the main place of learning. Could be the Nasi Sanhedrin, but the ones who let in, there were chairs for everybody to learn. There was only 75 members of Sanhedrin, but there was chairs and room for others to come and sit in. Well, there were hundreds and hundreds of others that wanted to come in, at least to hear and listen to the way that they learned and to hear the discussions that were going on. Rebbe Gamliel machriz, and he said, "Kol talmid she'ein toch kabora lo yikanes lagan." He said, anyone who's inside is outside, is not. I'm sorry, who's inside is not like his outside, cannot come in. What does that mean? A person can dress up and he has, a nice, beautiful hat, and he looks good, and he's got a nice beard, and he wears tzitzis, and he walks, with a stately gait, and he looks very honorable. But in the fact is, and he knows a little bit of Torah, but he doesn't know all of the Torah. He doesn't know the Torah, and he looks like he's a big genius, but in fact, he's not a big genius. He's a little genius. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, anyone who's not, first of all, you have to look like you're a genius, but that's not enough. You have to actually be one in order to come in. If not, you can't come in. It says Toko Kabaro. Your insides have to be like your outsides. That was Rabbi Gamliel, who was very, very, how do you say, searching for perfection. Very perfect. And he said, any pupil is not exactly good, can't come in. How Yuma, but as soon as they deposed him, the story was over there that Rabbi Gamliel, he was a little bit too strict. And there was a whole story with him with Rabbi Yoshua, and he embarrassed Rabbi Yoshua in front of everybody because Rabbi Yoshua didn't give him what he thought was proper honor, and they said that's enough. So they voted to depose him. So they deposed Rabbi Gamliel. In the end, they brought him back. He was the head for 2 Shabboses, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he was for 1 Shabbos. But okay, nevertheless, they deposed him. Right, so they deposed him. Rabbi Gamliel, he used to say that anyone who's not his inside is not like his outside, he can't come in. That day, atos v'kama sapslim. That day, there were many, many new pupils that came in. Eitzel Rabban Gamliel by Rabban Gamliel, the way he acted was like in the future. In the future, in the Mashiach, time of the Mashiach. What's going to be the time of the Mashiach? As Ruach Atuma, Avir Min Oretz, there won't be any bad in the world. There won't be any forgetfulness. There won't be any laziness. There won't be any ignorance. Shalu Yechanes LaBeit Midrash, anyone who's not to the level of like, everyone will be in the days of the Mashiach, can't come in. That's what they said. Talmid she'ein tocha kabaro. His inside has to be like his outside. Ki mitzad darga kadusha, because the level of holiness, which is going to be in the future, and Rabban Shimon Gamliel was already there. In Makom Kolal, there is no place, the Inyan Shal Hepech, to be the opposite. Al-Yidei Hanhagat Shammai. This is something like Hillel and Shammai. Shammai was very strict. Why? Not because he was a bad person, because he looked for perfection. He demanded that the ultimate potential that you have should be expressed. Milashan, that's Shammai. Shammai was a Sham Archotav, someone who always is measuring and, how do you say, evaluating himself, examining himself. Shaluchi, and therefore halacha kashamai, tavka lasid. Therefore, it says that the law now is not like Shammai; it's also like Hillel. But in the future, in the days of the Mashiach, the law will be like Shammai. Shammai is very strict, and now people can't keep up to that level of perfection. But in the future, in the days of the Mashiach, when all potential will be revealed, is then everyone will be happy to do like Beit Shammai, to be strict. Which is not the case the way Rebbe and Eliezer ben Azariah. So Beit Shammai, he was like Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel. They were very strict, very exacting, because they demanded the utmost from people. Which is not the case on August Rebbe Eliezer ben Azariah. What you saw was it was according to the way things are now in the world, to be, how do you say, realistic. The Mitzrayim, the Meitzarim v'Gebulim, even in the world, olam, the word olam means limitations, concealment of Meitzarim v'Gebulim, even in this limited world, shel helamot v'historim, that everything is concealed, ad l'matzav, until a bichoshech galut, that we're in exile. So if so, we have a possibility that people can be ein tocha kabaro. There can be that there's people that they're not expressing their abilities, their true abilities. Their IQ is not so high, their motivation isn't so great, but they do have a certain IQ and they do have a little bit of motivation, and they want to come in and learn the Torah. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel would say, a person like that, work on yourself. You're fooling yourself. You have to work on yourself. You're not up to the quality of learning Torah yet. You can learn in other simple places, not in that. This is the highest place of learning. You can't get into the highest place of learning unless you have reach some level of perfection. That's what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said. But they deposed him and they put in Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah said, listen, we can't expect perfection because the world is not perfect. Anyone can get in, even a person whose inside is not like his outside. He has a genuine desire to come and learn. Nitan lepol at the bureau, it's possible that he can be refined. He can refine himself, and we can elevate him, like going out of Egypt. Going out of Egypt, everybody got out, and he wanted to. Look, and therefore, ba'oto yom, that day, salkul hashoma, they removed the guard on the door, the natu lam reshut, and they gave permission to all the pupils to come in. Shezel winyan on Nasi. That's the whole idea of the Nasi, of a true leader. Laharbot Talmidim Israel, to increase pupils in Israel. Not just the people who are already qualified should be great people, to take people who are not qualified and make them qualified. That's the idea of a true Jewish leader. You might think, even the Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, since Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, who gave permission that should come in pupils that are not really, how do you say, refined? They're not 100% genuine. They're not 100% of the quality. As if Shalapol, you might think if the pupils that he let in, so you can't really expect that bring these people up to the level of perfection, like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said. So okay, so it'll be less than perfection, right? Instead of buying a Rolls Royce, so it'll be like a Chevrolet. It's also good, also drive, right? It won't be perfection. These will be pupils that they'll make mistakes a little bit sometimes, and they won't be 100% perfect. And Shekena Geula Shlema, because so in other words, Rebbe Shimon Gamliel, he couldn't bear anything except for a complete redemption, and that he thought would come only if you have completely perfect pupils. They can learn the Torah in the most completely perfect way, and that'll save the world. Rabbi Elazar ben Zaria says, no, you have to save also the pupils, also you have to save. And by means of this, you can bring a total redemption to the whole world. How? If they're imperfect, if you have imperfect parts, how are you going to build a perfect car? Shekain, because the future redemption, totally bagula, totally bekach shakol, shahakol, that everyone, will be, tochokabaro, everyone will be like that. The answer is very simple. You want to build a perfect car. There's laws. You want to build a perfect building, you can't, but the people are not like cars. People are not machines. People are not even animals. People can totally change themselves, totally, if they have the proper education and inspiration and encouragement. That's what it means. That's the whole job of a leader of the Jewish people, to take the people who are not ready and who are not fit and make them fit and ready. Like it says, eventually this will be by Esruach HaTumah V'Yirmin Oretz, by taking Jews that are not in any way ready and prepared or able to bring any godliness into the world, and making them ready and able I say perfect, to perfect them. Therefore, you can add on wisdom in the Jewish people all the days of your life, including the nighttime, even the people who are in exile and they're in the nighttime, and people, namely, that their inside is not like their outside. Nevertheless, you can affect them and bring the complete redemption of the Jewish people. This is hinted at. Rabban Gamliel, also Rabban Gamliel, he did not. It says in the Gemara that they all discussed over there, and all these simple people, the simpler people, they came out in from the outside, and when they're in there learning Torah, so they have time. Anyone can put in any comment that he wants to. So Rabban Gamliel himself, who had just been evicted, he didn't stay home and pout. Afilu shachat, not even 1 minute. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah caused that also Rabban Gamliel, shebedargat avoda, that he was to Rabban Gamliel, that he was already in the level of the days of the Moshiach. He was already this tremendously high level of awareness of God. He agreed, and he even helped Laseder Anaga to the way that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah did. But not the Lam Rashut Latalmidim Lakanes Labeit Midrash. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel realized that he was making a mistake. He realized that what he thought that only perfect people can bring to a higher level of perfection, he realized it was wrong. That you can take people that were not that were not ready for perfection, that were not even, how do you say, potential, and you can give them the readiness and the perfection and the potential. You can change people. You can make them perfect. You can reveal potential that they themselves didn't even know they had. That's the whole idea of a true leader of the Jewish people. We can add on or an explanation in this. I just want to say one small. The point over here is to reveal potential. It's not to make something new. It's not to make something that's brand new in a person. It's to reveal a potential that person happens to have. Potential that person happens to have. There's a thing in sports, especially, that they don't allow you to take drugs. What is it? Performance enhancing drugs. And sometimes they discover that these, that in the Olympics or whatever, that they take drugs, they disqualify the person. They take away his his medals and his accomplishments and everything. Why? Because drugs, that's an additional thing. That's not really the person. That's not really the person. The drugs just stimulate his muscles or whatever, his blood, with it, to act in a not normal way, a way which is not normal for that person. It's not in his potential. It's almost like taking a drug to be happy. Right? So you take a drug, and you're happy. It's not that you're really happy. It doesn't really make you happy. The drug just makes you a little bit more, how do you say, positive, a little bit. It doesn't really make you happy, a person. It doesn't change your nature. Temporarily, it changes your chemistry so that you don't concentrate so much on the negative things. It confuses you a little bit. Right? All these drugs and liquor and things like that. That's why it's forbidden. Here, the Rebbe is not talking about that. The Rebbe is talking about revealing your true potential, who you really are. And it's in everybody's potential to be attached to God. And in every Jew's potential that he wants to learn Torah, that he's able to learn Torah. Whatever level that he's at. It says, therefore, every Jew, if he reveals his true potential, then he'll want to do the commandments, he'll want to learn the Torah, he'll want to understand the Torah, he'll want to pray, he'll want to have love of God, love of his fellow man, love. These things are already waiting. It's like discovering. It's like Columbus, he didn't invent America, he discovered America. It's already there. Yeshlo, we'll see if we can add on, or an explanation, also what it says in the Mishnah, and it's in the end. This is the end of the first chapter of Brachot. Brachot, it's a tractate. First tractate in the Talmud. In the beginning of the first chapter, it says, the first Mishnah. How does the tractate Brachot start off? When do we read the Shema in the evening? Right? It's a commandment to say Shema Yisrael, to say this one sentence, or to say the whole paragraph that it's in, and he goes to say it twice a day. It's a commandment. When do you have to start this? You have to say once in the daytime and once in the nighttime, right? What's the earliest in the daytime you can call? What's the earliest? What's the cutoff point when you can't say in the daytime anymore? It's already too late. You can only say the nighttime. You have to say twice a day. Let's say you didn't say it the whole day. At what time exactly should you start? What's the earliest you can start? So from what time can you read the Shema in the nighttime? In the nighttime. In Judaism, the date, right, it begins in the nighttime. When sun sets, that's the beginning of a new day. Shabbat begins when the sun sets. Shemash Mu'utah, that spiritually it means Ha'pu'ula de Kriyat Shema. This saying Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that's the motto of Judaism. When you say that, you're supposed to accept on yourself the kingship of heaven in a way of me'ematai. Me'ematai means from when, but ema also means fear. Ema means fear. Afilu ba'aravim, even in the nighttime. Even in the nighttime, when it's the time of exile, and you can't see God, you can't see your Jewish soul, you can't see anything, it's totally dark, spiritually. Nevertheless, you can still accept on yourself the yoke of heaven in fear. Fear means essentially value. When something's very valuable, you're afraid to lose it. Something that's not very valuable, you're not afraid to lose it. When you feel how valuable God is, you don't want to lose that connection to him. That's called fear. You're afraid of losing. That's what it means. No sofa. So that's what it means at the end of that first chapter of Brachot. The beginning of the first chapter of Brachot is that even in the evening, people that are dark, they can still accept on themselves the yoke of heaven in fear, in appreciation. That's the beginning. What's the end? The end is the story about Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Ezra ben Azariah. The beginning is found in the end is found in the beginning. Mazkirin Yetzias Mitzrayim, what's the end of the first chapter? Mentioning going out of Egypt even in the nighttime. Both of them are talking about the nighttime. In the Kriya Shema, when in Shema, the beginning of the first chapter of Brachot talks about Shema Yisrael, when you should say Shema in the evening. The end is also talking about Shema Yisrael, what you should say in the evening. Asher Yitzid Mitzrayim, that the going out of Egypt is one thing with Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is accepting the yoke of heaven. That you can only do that if you go out of your personal Egypt. Egypt means limitations. Lochen, therefore, Tiknu Perishis Yitzias Mitzrayim, when you say Shema, specifically when it is a commandment, Bifnei Atzmo alone, and in not mitzvah Kriya Shema, there's one commandment to say Shema, and there's another commandment that you have to mention every day going out of Egypt. It's a separate commandment. Every day you have to mention going out of Egypt. Well, we mention it in our prayers before we say the Shema. Al pi haklal, according to what we said, that the end is found in the beginning, and the beginning is in the end. We've talked about this before. But what does it mean the end is in the beginning and the beginning is in the end? The example is always given. Let's say I want to build a house. What's in my mind? First thing in my mind is the finished house. In my mind is the end. That's what I want. I want a house. Maybe I can even add a few details. I want a couple of trees. I want to have 5 rooms or 7 rooms. But the finished house, that's the first thing. The end is found in the beginning. Also the same thing. What about in the end when you finally move into the house? Where is that? What is that? The house that satisfies your first desire that you had in the beginning. So in the beginning, in your first thoughts, when you're just planning, what do you have in your mind? The end. And when you move into the house and the finally in the end, what does that do? It connects you to the beginning. This is what I wanted. So it's a general principle that the end is in the beginning and the beginning is in the end. The same thing, the beginning of the first chapter of tractate Brachot is talking about reading Shema in the evening. The end is talking about reading Shema in the evening and mentioning going out of Egypt. Al pi haklal, what he said, no, it's so often that the end is found in the beginning and the beginning is in the end. Yeshla, there's a connection to the whole, we can connect it also to the whole completion of the whole entire Talmud. Whether the Gemara, like it says, Kol Lashon halachos b'kol yom, it says everyone who learns laws every day is promised that he's going to be Olam Haba. It'll be part of Olam Haba, which means the days of the Moshiach, the raising of the dead. If you learn laws every day, like it says, Halichos Olam, lo al tikra halichos ela halachos, but laws. Sheba halichos Olam, that in the ways of the world, mamshichim halachos, you can draw down the laws of the Torah. What's the first thing? The Torah was before the world. What's the last thing is the world. So we have the beginning, the laws of the Torah are in the end. And in the end, when the laws of the Torah are in the world, that's what God wanted in the beginning. Until it reaches even this level of Olam Haba. This includes in it also the raising of the dead future. Also, the same thing is in the Mishnayos. What's the beginning of the Mishnayos? Is we already talked about it. We want to read the Shema, that's brachos. What's the end? Lo matzah kodesh baruch hu kli machzik bracha. God did not find a vessel to hold blessings. El hashalom, only peace. Shene'amar, like it says, Hashem ozlam oitein, Hashem yibrecha tavom b'shalom. God blessed His people with peace. God power gave to His people, and God blessed His people with peace. The Gam Siyum, also the end of the Gemara and Brachot itself, that God gave to the Jewish people power by means of Elazar ben Azariah. El, God, El is power. Ezer, El is power. Ezer helped. Ben Azar, Yudke. 2 names of God. We learned about that in the 8th paragraph. The Ein Od El Torah, Ein Oz, El Torah. And that God gave Oz power to His people. That's the Torah. So the Rebbe is bringing all sorts of examples of how the beginning is reflected in the end. The beginning of the Talmud, which talks about this thing of reading Shema in the evening, that's reflected in the end of the Talmud, when it talks about drawing down the laws into the world. The beginning of the Mishnah, that connected to the end of the Mishnahs, says that God gives peace to His people. He gives the Torah, Oz power. And that's the idea of peace. Asher Shleim is the real true idea of peace, is only going to be in the GEULA by means of the Moshiach, the GEULA mitzvah Shlema. in the complete redemption by means of the Mashiach, like it says, Para b'shal nafshi. So what are we saying over here? What's the point that the Rebbe is trying to make? The Rebbe is trying to make this point. Mashiach is the goal of mankind. That was the beginning, the first thing that God wanted in his mind, a complete world. But it's up to us to do it. And the way that we can do it is we have leaders, and the leaders get help from God. Azar Yudke, Azariah, and El, another name of God. Azar helps. And these leaders give us also the same blessing that God also helps us. That's why we have the Torah. The Torah is what the Jewish people have in order to bring peace into the world, ideally. And it can be done because the law is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that anyone, you don't have to have any qualifications. As long as you're a Jew, as you can participate in this, educating the whole world to bring Mashiach. And when the world is educated, then the whole world will be in this level of perfection, peace, power, joy. But it's all up to us to do it and not to forget that we can do it. It's in our power, and that it's necessary that we do it to fix the world. It's pressing. And even most important of all, it's going to happen. For sure it'll happen. For sure everyone will wake up, and for sure the world will be unified with Mashiach. Now, tomorrow, God willing, Friday, we'll learn at 8:15 until 9 o'clock. God willing, we'll try to finish this. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, thank you very much for coming. And God bless you.